Hello everyone, welcome back to this Microsoft Excel tutorial journey with me on my Knowledge Factor YouTube channel. This is the 89th session and today we are going to learn something more about creating the pivot table. So let's take a look at how you create an Excel pivot table. Now still in front of you I am on the sales data worksheet. Make sure you navigate to that worksheet right here and then you can follow along with me and go through the steps. So you're going to find that creating the summary information, creating something like this on the right hand side based on the table on your left hand side. It's actually just a few clicks of the mouse. It's really quick to do. I hear so many people I came across with when they say I want to learn pivot table, but I have heard that they are pretty complex, they are really difficult to work with, right? They are actually not that difficult. A couple of clicks and drags of the mouse and you have summarized the data really quickly. The most time consuming part of building a pivot table is deciding what it is that you want to summarize within the pivot table. Do you want to see the sales by year, by month? Do you want to break it out by salesperson, by type? How do you want it to look so you can present that data? That's the most time consuming part. But once you have got that down, you decided what it is that you actually want to report off and display. It's really simple to do. And we are going to take a look at that right now. So now before I create the pivot table, a really good piece of advice right here. There's two ways that you can make references to the data that you want to include inside the pivot table. One, you can just reference the range of cells, right? I can just say that, hey pivot table, I want to create a pivot table based of cells A4 down to a couple of hundreds of records inside here, down to 448, right? But that's what I want to include inside a pivot table. But although that works, the issue is if the pivot table updates or if the data, the list updates, the new records are added or records are deleted, the pivot table is still looking at that range A4 to H448, right? So that's one way. But again, if the pivot table grows or increases in by another record or shrinks because the records are deleted, the pivot table is still looking at the same range. So that's the problem. So you might be leaving that data on the table, you might be leaving it out of the pivot table, right? So another way to do this is to turn this list into a table format as a table and then use the table name inside the pivot table reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click into this list and try this out. Click into the list, doesn't matter where. I'm going to go to my home tab and underneath the style section there's format as a table. I'm going to pick a style, really doesn't matter which one we pick, this is just more of a preference. What color do you like? Do you want alternating rows, whatever. So I like blue, medium blue, so I'll grab that. Alright, so our data range is from A4 to H448. We saw that just a moment ago, and our table does contain headers, year, month, type, salesperson, and so on. So I'll just hit OK, and we have now formatted the table or the list as a table, and I can use that table name, table 4 right now. This is if you click into the list and go to the table design tab, and you got the table name right there. Let's just call that the yearly sales. No space in the table name. Now when I create the pivot table, I could use that name. And if the table increases in size, more records are added or records are deleted, whatever happens, the pivot table still knows where to find the data. Alright, so once it's formatted as a table, I'll then click into my list, right? And I'm going to go to my insert tab, and on the insert tab, first option there is pivot table. So I'm going to go ahead and click the pivot table. Alright, so create the pivot table. So the first step wants us to select where the data is, right? So we are going to select a table or range. Remember those two options. table or range. It's already picked up on yearly sales because I clicked into the table. Whatever you name the table, maybe it's table 4 or 5 or 6 or yearly sales, you also have the option to pull from the external data source. For us right now, our example here, we are going to pull from the table range, a data model. If you get into Excel Power Pivots, you can create data models and you can use that as your data source. And then the second step is where you want to place the pivot table. So for us right now, I'm going to stick with our table, whatever you named it, yearly sales in my case, and I'm going to put it on a new worksheet. Earlier when I built this one for a demonstration, I put it on the existing worksheet. Now last option here is if you do have a power pivot enabled, and that's something that we will discuss in a future section of this course. You'll have the option to add it to an Excel data model, but if you do that, there's lots of stuff you can do with the power pivot, a lot of really fancy stuff, but if you do it through an Excel data model, there are some limitations on the pivot table. Grouping is one of those limitations. So if you want to build a group, I would suggest keeping that option turned off. If you don't care about the grouping but you want to take advantage of power pivot and other tools, then you could turn that on and add it to a data model. Now once again, but you got to take the advantage of Excel Power Pivot, and we'll talk about that in the future section. So for now, grab our table, new worksheet, and I'm going to hit OK. And Excel creates a new worksheet for us. Mine is just called sheet 1. Yours might be sheet 2 or 3 or whatever, but it did create a new worksheet there. And you got actually three important elements here. You got kind of beginning portion of your pivot table. Doesn't look like much right now. You should now have a pivot table field list on the right hand side, and you also got an option of new tab at the top of the screen. So make sure you try this out. Click into your list, format as a table, get that name, and then insert pivot table. Pick your source table name, tell it to put it into new worksheet, and you should be looking at something like this right here. There might be some minor differences, but something like this right here. So get to that point. You have created the beginning of your pivot table, and then we'll start to actually design it, modify it, and get it to look the way that we want it to. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and as I always say, if you really liked it and enjoying this journey, then please do like, share and subscribe my channel, and also press the bell icon to get the latest content update on this channel. Alright, then we'll meet up in the next session. In case you have any questions, any concerns, then do let me know in the comment section of this video. So see you in the next session. Till then, stay safe, have a great life, and take very good care of yourself.